The spear. Longus erectus. One of mankind's earliest inventions that has persisted from our hunter-gatherer ancestors to modern militaries. The most common weapon found in pre-industrial armies across the world. And yet, so underappreciated by the media in favor of alternatives, primarily the sword. Today we will endeavor to test the viability of the spear over its more flashy cousins in the favorite game of amateur historians and both jihad and crusader apologists, Mount and Blade Bannerlord. I'm not making challenge videos. Spears is a theme in which to tell my story. Not necessarily a hard rule, so I'm going to widen my definition of spear to include the entire polearm family and javelins. Essentially a long wooden stick with a pointy metal end is good enough for me. So to summarize, my character, my companions, and my troops are allowed all polearms, javelins, and shields. No cavalry allowed. The Mount and Blade game series is good, but for me it's like a Honda Civic. Stock is okay, but it's more of a starting point, and all the flashy mods are what make the game amazing. So we will be checking out Realm of Thrones, a Game of Thrones adaptation mod. Let us begin. And to begin, we have to answer a question that has stumped philosophers and stoners since the dawn of time. Who am I?
Excuse me, I'm Britney Spears.
In character customization, I choose a background in the Stormlands and life events that I think will aid me with the polearm, throwing, athletic skills, leadership skills, etc. We start our adventure in the Stormlands, and almost immediately, Britney was accosted several times by the local Westerosi fentanyl dealers and forced to pay them bribes to be left alone. This worked, until she ran out of money and was taken prisoner and forced to cook fentanyl for them. When she escaped, she fled across the narrow sea to Lotus Bay, accepting a quest to bring tools to a local village. With the reward, she was able to start hiring guards to keep the hooligans at bay. This is actually my third attempt at this campaign. My first attempt, I recruited whatever spearmen I could find. The problem is that every spearman in vanilla and in this mod carries a sidearm that they prioritize over their spear, which was no good. Second attempt, I downloaded My Little Warband and created my own custom troop tree of spear enthusiasts. This is when I discovered that spears are utter trash in Bannerlord. Instead of scrapping my idea, I broadened my idea to include all polearms and javelins. So these are the custom troops I was recruiting, and Britney began to train them in the art of the spear, making sure the head was oiled and clean, gripping the shaft just so. Then during the thrust, moving the palm down the shaft for full penetration. Wait, shit, this is the wrong script. Here we go. Okay, just gotta remember to edit this bit out. With a group of bodyguards at her back, Britney began to get into the Sigma grind mindset. She needed renown to increase her clan level and lots of coins to fund her future spear-bearing armies. Britney began a semi-professional career in the medieval equivalent of contact sports, the tourney. Admittedly, she lost far more than she won, but every victory came with a reward and that she could sell at the local pawn shop for a neat little profit. At a tournament in Fairmarket, Britney bumps into Jaime Lannister, who has fled his home after the introduction of Alabama Code 13-A-13-3. For a steep price, he agrees to join House Spears. We also hired a man we found passed out behind some dumpsters called Dick Crab, Nimble Dick to his friends. I hired him not because I find his name amusing, but because I need the book readers to know that I know. Remembering her run-in with drug dealers, Britney decided to earn some extra cash by participating in what some might call vigilante justice. Our warband tracked down and applied proportional physical force to the numerous gangs infesting Westeros. Britney led her best men in a raid of a robber knight hideout. Using the cover of night, we stealthily dismantled their operations through what you might call staff reduction efforts. We were confronted by the manager, who offered to settle the matter in a 1v1 deathmatch. But I do not negotiate with terrorists. Time passes, and one evening in Winterfell's tavern, Britney overhears some patrons telling tales of what lies north of the wall. Intrigued, she set out to find the truth of the matter for herself. Passing through the gate at Castle Black, it does not take long for Britney to realize the indigenous population is none too pleased with her presence. This results in several lucrative battles. The undead repeatedly charge face first into our spears, whilst Britney flanks and cuts them down. The White Walkers are more challenging, but we convince them to back down with a little strong-arm diplomacy. When we return south, it is with pockets full of money and a good deal of street cred. We use our level 2 renown to become an official noble by pledging our house to Renly Baratheon of the Stormlands. Why Renly? It's certainly not that Britney hopes to court him and become queen. Renly's choice of companionship is an open court secret. This is a good time to talk about my end goal here, and that's going to require some amount of lore dump. So, here we go. So it all goes back to Aegon the Conqueror, who had this friend named Boros Baratheon. Kills Argilac the Arrogant, takes his castle, and takes his daughter to wife. Then Jocelyn marries Aemon Targaryen, and they have a baby named Rhaenys, and her cousin Boros Baratheon was kind of a prick. Lionel Baratheon marries Rhaella Targaryen. Stefan Baratheon's sons are Robert, Stannis, and Renly. They have some Targaryen blood, so when Robert starts a civil war after being called an incel, he is crowned the new king. Robert dies. His son Joffrey Baratheon should inherit the throne unless Joffrey Baratheon is a secret incest bastard child, which he is. So now Robert's next eldest brother, Stannis, should be king, except he's kind of a dick, so Renly, the youngest, but arguably the best of the siblings, also puts his hat into the ring.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
Oh, I am enjoying this scene.
Get on with it!
That all leads me to this. We will help Renly to defeat his brother Stannis and take King's Landing from Joffrey, hopefully earning Renly's favor, so that he will grant us a castle of our own. Look, the housing market's shit. A girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do to become a homeowner. The fruits of the feudal system bear fruit sooner rather than later. Renly grants Britney the castle of Rosby as her very first fiefdom and home. To celebrate her rise to power, Britney goes clothes shopping, picking out some very nice drip. Life isn't all cakes, castles, and clothes though. It was time to test our spearmen and see what they could really do. We come across Miles Mooten, a Riverlands lord fighting Boros Blount, one of Joffrey's cronies. Britney decided to intervene on Mooten's behalf. Pop quiz! What's the formula to determine kinetic energy? We need to determine the mass and velocity of the warhorses bearing down upon us to get an exact measurement on how unpleasant it will be. But we can skip all that math because I can tell you, it wasn't just unpleasant, it was downright not very fun. Conventional wisdom says my spears should counter these cavalry charges, thus the whole reason for me trying this build. Does it work though?
Well, yes. Okay. Well, no. Well, sort of, kind of.
We keep the formation tight and eventually form into a box, a classic anti-cavalry technique that doesn't work so well. Britney's knocked out and the battle's lost, but luckily we escape with our wounded. We took on a guerrilla warfare approach, ambushing enemy lords already engaged in fights, attacking lords who only have low-tier levies, and picking on smaller forces. I helped the Stormlands win a battle at sea that was really just a chaotic rave, and followed them into a siege of Rook's Rest, a lovely castle that will also be granted to me. Much as in life, these successes blind Britney to her own shortcomings and the lessons she has learned. This boldness became my undoing when I allowed Lord Renfrid Riker to catch me with a much larger host. I offer to settle things in a duel, but Lord Riker informs me he does not negotiate with terrorists. Like a true soy boy, I attempt to hide my formation behind some houses to reduce casualties from his ranged troops and to limit the directions his cavalry can charge at us from. We stop the first charge, Britney bracing her spear in front of the formation, showing no fear. Our beautiful circle formation holds as the Knights of Westerlands charge again and again. Enemy footmen crash into us from two sides. We start taking casualties, and it isn't long until the formation is penetrated and our losses begin to stack up. Britney catches a mace with her teeth and goes down. With their leader wounded, the formation breaks, and it isn't long until they have all been cut down. Britney is taken as a noble hostage to be sold back later to the Stormlands for a hefty ransom. Was this where my campaign would end? The absolute and utter failure of my spearmen to be the final epitaph of House Spears. The inevitable march of time continues its path, without sightings of brave Britney. Oh, what is this? A host of Westernlanders besieging Rosby. And who is that there, marching on them with a smaller force of pure infantry?
Excuse me, I'm Britney Spears.
I am back, with longer spears, more men, and a bigger attitude. Daddy didn't raise no quitter, and more importantly, I'm a masochist. I like the pain. Hit me, baby, one more time. Or something like that. I don't recall the lyrics anymore. We form up into a loose formation. None of that homoerotic Greek tight formation garbage, but good and proper. Finish bus stop space for the pikes to brace. The first charge comes, and Britney meets them with polearm braced for impact, javelins trailing after the cavalry as they fall back. Here comes the Westerland's foot in a shield wall formation. Will they break me again? It looks ugly at first, but the enemy is quickly enveloped by my loose formation, and we fall on them from every side like the buffalo horns of Shaka Zulu. My men even use their javelins in a similar manner as the Zulu's Ikwa short spear. With the infantry massacred, we pick off their heavy banner knights one by one. Okay, a side note for those interested in trying something like this. My pikemen still favor using their javelins until they run out, and then they finally start reliably using the pikes to brace against cavalry charges, so you might want to get rid of their javelins if you want to try this challenge. But honestly, I kind of like how they performed, so either way. With Britney back, we needed to expand our operations. We promoted Jaime Lannister and gave him command of his own men, an important step of power projection. Like a single-celled organism, I must split and multiply. Like before, I fight in numerous small battles and skirmishes around Rosby, both to protect my home and perhaps more importantly, to start building up influence, which would be very important soon. In the spring, I find an army gathered by House Errol, fighting with the Westernland army of House Lefford. I jump in to help my Stormland comrades. Huge regiments of Westernland cavalry smash into our formations. The battle quickly turns into a chaotic mess. A lovely, beautiful, chaotic mess. This is the type of battle that makes me come back to this game. Just look at that. It's pure spectacle, entirely cinematic. Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else, this is Bannerlord. Despite our best efforts and early success, the majority of the Stormlands were just peasant levies, armed with whatever they had at hand. We lose, but we also escape the battle without being imprisoned. This battle made me realize it was time to stop faffing about and get serious. I used my influence to marshal the lords into an army with our sights set on Dragonstone, the seat of Stannis Baratheon. Look at this stunning rendition of Dragonstone. A huge thanks to the modding team that made Realm of Thrones. What's not amazing is being the attacker on this map. The ramp up to the gates is long and dangerous. Enemy archers and artillery have great vantage points to rain death upon my men. Britney is almost knocked out by a nearby catapult blast, but even so, she only stays on her feet for a short time before being taken out by an archer while trying to break through the second gate. The garrison of Dragonstone doggedly defended their castle. Stormlanders mount ladders and attempt to gain the wall, but here they see limited success. A hole that has been punched into the side of the castle is also stormed, and a deadly close quarters fight erupts in the narrow hallways. Our men push through the gatehouse and continue the advance through the streets. When we at last pin down the remaining defenders atop the walls, it is only after we have suffered near catastrophic casualties ourselves. We are, however, triumphant. In Renly's generosity, we are granted Dragonstone as our fiefdom, a true sign of favor within the kingdom. We turn our eyes from the defeated Stannis to the emotionally stable King Joffrey. We take Duskendale by night in a deadly siege, an important city and port for our continued war effort. We lure Sir Meryn Trant, a Kingsguard of King Joffrey's, and his lady mother, Cersei Lannister, into a battle. They have the high ground, but no matter, the length of our spears counter this advantage. Britney invites a Kingsguard to dance, and her men give Meryn Trant a proper North Sentinelese greeting. Renly was being held prisoner in King's Landing, the capital of Westeros. Fearing a Ned Stark situation, I wasted no time. I had earned a considerable amount of influence with the kingdom, and used it all to convince the lords of the Stormlands to abandon their petty raiding and castle sieges to join together in my grand army. Together we would save Renly and give him the capital of Westeros in one move. We build our siege engines, trebuchet and catapults to destroy their artillery, siege towers and a ram to gain access to their city. I've heard it said that a rule of thumb in siege warfare is that the attacker needs to outnumber the defender 3-1. We didn't manage that. Brittany helps defend a siege tower as it lumbers its way into place. Once firmly anchored to the wall, she's among the first group to attempt an assault on the walls. Siege warfare is a dangerous thing though, and Brittany is almost instantly swarmed by men who attempt to mansplain medieval siege tactics to her. She is dragged wounded from the battle, but her troops carry on. In the gatehouse, Jaime Lannister and his men are introduced to the concept of gravity. On the walls, an uncivil argument evolves into coordinated manslaughter. Crossbowmen behind the walls reenact the Red Wedding. Great heroism and great villainy play out in large scale. Some fight on despite grievous wounds. The men are so tightly packed that the smell of Axe body spray becomes unbearable. When the professional soldiers go down, Brits, armed with kitchen knives, take their place. Bodies pile up. Blood soaks the earth. A terrible day of brutality and rage. When the clash of arms dies down, it is the Stormlands who have claimed the day. It was a close thing, very close, but we managed to pull off a successful siege of King's Landing. I put my vote forward for Renly to take the fiefdom and the Iron Throne in King's Landing. We visited the throne room of King's Landing to see the famous Iron Throne. Brittany took a quick seat while no one was watching, but claiming the Iron Throne is for another campaign. For now, we sit in the side benches, a vassal of the true King Renly Baratheon. We make off well though. Granted 4 fiefdoms, we have the Castle of Rosby and Rook's Rest, and the towns of Dragonstone and Duskendale. House Spears has firmly proven itself and been rewarded as such. The actual spearmen were, sadly, a bit lackluster on the battlefield, but the pikes and two-handed polearms did well enough. I think that will end the House Spears campaign. Thanks for watching.